Everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Boom Show. This is Zurich for once. Next time we're going to have a virtual guest here. Reto is my guest today. I will be talking with you in a minute, in a second, more or less. And behind the scenes, we have somebody else who's very important for the Boom Show. That's Gustavo Salami, who produces this whole channel and this show, and is the CEO of the company Kuble, which is behind this all. Reto, before we start and before I say anything else, let's talk about your kind of growth. First of all, what's your company?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be with you here. So I'm co-founder and CEO of TestingTime. We are a test user recruitment service. Growth-wise, we started in 2015 when we incorporated, generated $250,000 in revenue, and last year we grew to $3 million yearly revenue. Also employee-wise, we started with 3 people, 3 founders, and now we are a team of 26, and also operate now in several core markets outside Switzerland, like Germany or the whole DACH region. Then we went to the UK, France, and the Netherlands.
Really cool. And I was at your offices when you were 3, so I'm really looking forward to having this hour, this deep dive into business growth, because before we continue this, I would like to tell you what this is about and what it is about, the Boom Show. What the Boom Show is about deconstructing business growth cases of different companies. And that's very important because I got the feedback last time, after the first episode, that actually people expect the biggest growth ever to being discussed in this show, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. I'm interested in different kinds of business growth. So for instance, I hope that we might have somebody on who works in a company that is already 200 years old, and they have a growth of a few % every year. But I'm really interested in that as well. And if you have no growth at all, at least not on revenue, but your profit is growing, or your customer happiness is growing, or your employee satisfaction is growing, these are topics that I'm interested in as well. So you can grow in different ways, and I think this will not be boring at any point in the near future, because we're going to experience or discuss different kinds of growth. Another thing that I would like to say is that for those who were here the last time already, this will be a little different, a little more active. That's important to me because some people told me, Dave, you were not even yourself, almost sleeping in your chair, in your seat. And of course, I don't want to be like that. And I know Reto very well, and Reto knows me. So this is not the way I am. Thank you very much for this feedback, Olivier Schneller. By the way, you're sitting in Hamburg, but you're the reason why I met Olivier, why I met Reto. I'm having troubles with names here.
Hi, Olivier.
A long time ago. So, before we start, I would like to say something else about the show, because I think this is one of the most exciting experiments right now when it comes to corporate media. And people come to the stream and they see there are 10 people, maybe 20 people. Why is this even working? Why are they making all that effort? And I can tell you how it works. First of all, it's streaming right now on 4 platforms, basically on 4, and then there's the website, so kind of 5. And on all these platforms, you can watch the Boom Show right now. And after, you will have the replay available on all these platforms. Plus, we're going to have social media posts by Kuble, by Pokert, by myself, by our guest, hopefully, Reto.
Sure.
Very cool. And by the way, this is Gustavo, the man I talked about, the man behind the scenes, and I'm really happy that he's doing the show with me. So that's part of it. And another thing that Kuble does is they have a budget for social ads, and they boost the whole replay on Facebook as well. So for instance, those who were here last week, if you go to Facebook, to Pokert's, is it Pokert or is it Kuble's? No, it's Kuble's, right? On Facebook. On Facebook, it's Kuble, and if you go to the post of last week, you will see that we have a few hundred views in the meantime. So that's for those of you who wonder, why are these guys doing this if I see that only 10 people are around here? That's not the case, first of all, and B, we're going to boost it and also boost this show later on. So I hope that settles it. Another thing that I would like to do this time is if you're there and if you want to tell us something, I mean we have a screen in front of us, so we see when you chat with us. And this time, differently from last time, we will take on your input or take up your input immediately and talk about it. Let's make this a little more chaotic, a little more lively, and we really appreciate any inputs of you. Please chat with us and we will get back to you. Within short time.
For that.
Yeah, right? Good. Reto, back to you. First of all,
sure.
Why would you become a founder?
Why would or why did I become?
Looking back, you were...
Okay, yes, looking back, this is something which goes really like years back in my life. I always wanted to build things, invent things. I think my first idea, I was like in my early 20s or when I wanted to invent an anti-snoring device because my parents, they were always snoring, couldn't sleep. So I thought like, well, with the anti-wave thing, you know, this thing, I could invent something like this. And I always was into ideas to change the world, to make it a better place. And so it's no surprise I kind of ended up in this situation today.
What's your training?
My training, originally I studied computer science, one of those nerds, and I was never really like a great programmer. I enjoyed it, but I was never like really good, and I always was interested in user interfaces, you know, like the intersection of psychology, design, and technology, and so that's why when I joined back in 2008, I believe, Doodle, as a product manager, I totally got into this field of user experience. I didn't have an education back then in UX, but I had a lot of passion. I just love to make things simple, to observe real users, to try to use an app and see like, oh, what I thought is the best thing actually really sucks and I need to improve. And then I started to study human-computer interaction design while working at Doodle, and this is how I got into the whole testing time, basically.
And testing time is your company, the business that you have founded.
Exactly.
There was something else in between, because when I met you, you were not working on the anti-snoring device. You were also not yet working on TestingTime's product, but you were working on an app that should have helped me to remember names of people. Yeah. And I think I even remember the name, because it was Remember My Name.
It was Remember That Name.
Remember the name, okay.
But yeah, that
almost.
I always try to kind of exclude that life experience from my CV, but in a way it keeps popping up, which is all right. Yes. At Doodle, that was like a scheduling app for the masses. Everyone knew it. It's like, oh, I want to just take an equal simple problem, remembering names, and solve it with a very simple app. And that's what I did right after I left Doodle in 2013, 14-ish. And I did several attempts on solving this thing, and then it just never seemed to fly. I pivoted about 3 times. I even got a grant from Microsoft and Nokia, 25,000 euro, to build a Windows Phone app. And I thought like, wow, this will be my life savior. But of course, that app ecosystem didn't even fly itself. So my app was a sort of a waste at the end. And then I discovered the idea for testing time. And then at some point I said, look, I think I'm going to waste time on Remember the Name. And I did an official online funeral to kind of bury that away, and so I could give my fullest attention to testing time.
Wow. I think you shouldn't bury this one. It's an important part of your life, of your CV, and I really like that part of your story, especially because that's when I met you. Long time ago.
True.
In the chat is ready to display messages. That's not a chat message, right? Okay, good. It's a channel about growth. Naturally, the channel will grow. Yes, absolutely. Decidilo. I have the same problem again. I still wonder whether I'm saying your name right. Thanks, Dave, for your transparent words. I learn and enjoy. Do you think there is a place for a new unicorn on the internet business nowadays? Reto, back to you.
The word unicorn is funny because a good friend of mine, Remy, co-founder of Supertext, told me now unicorn is dead. They call them camel now due to Corona. Camel can really last long. They can survive very long, you know. So unicorn, this is already old stuff. But I think there are always opportunities, regardless of a crisis or whatever. There is a place for new great ideas. And actually the biggest and best ideas were born in a crisis, like Airbnb, for example, was during the 2008-9 crash. So there's always a place.
Not a bad place to start. Decidilo, could you please connect with me on LinkedIn? Because I want to get back to you and know how to say this name, okay? And I see you around here for the second time, so I think this is the time where we should start saying your name right. If you could do that, please, Dave Hertig on LinkedIn, you should be able to find me. Christoph, the co-founder. Is he the Christoph, are you the co-founder? Or did you come in later? What would you say, Gustavo?
It's more complicated than that.
It's more complicated than that. Let's not go into that. No.
Why didn't you read Christoph Hies?
It's
actually Christoph Hess, right?
No, it's Christoph Hess. Okay, so your question, Christoph, is Switzerland a good place for startups when it comes to growth?
So I'm
Absolutely.
supposed to answer this question.
Oh, of course.
I like his second one better, but I start with the first one.
Come on, you're Swiss. You can take the order.
No, I believe, because I used to live in the Silicon Valley, right? And even gave another shot for an idea there. And everyone said, like, Silicon Valley is the place to be. And I disagree. Silicon Valley back then, still now, it's like there's so much competition, such a big shark tank in a way. And you can go every night to events and just waste your time going to events and rather than building your idea. So, and when I came back, I realized Switzerland is maybe not as aggressive, but it's a good place to start a company. You may not be able to go super crazy here, but you can build a really decent company. That's why the infrastructure here is great, and the government kind of moves things too. And so, yeah, I can recommend it. Very well.
Yeah.
And maybe the only downside here, it's the war for talent. That may change a little bit now due to Corona, but like just Google sucks up all the talent here in Zurich, especially. And it's, so they are not like, so everyone wants great talents and pay a lot of salary. And that's the only difficult thing here. But it's the same in Silicon Valley, actually. Everyone wants the best talent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Christoph, does that answer your question? You have a second one. In the meantime, let's look at that one. You already spotted it, so can you read it for us?
How do usability requirements change with voice interfaces? It's a very good question, has often been discussed during UX conferences. How should I best answer this? I mean, the whole industry has been built around touch and point devices, mouse or finger, and so suddenly you work with your voice, and this is a complete new thing. So whatever you have learned regarding usability tests or even building prototypes to test is different, because with voice interfaces it's more about a dialogue. It's almost like scripting a theatrical dialogue, you know, and this is how you test. You just kind of talk with each other. This is how you test the usability of an interface. And I say, you are the bot, you have certain limitations, and then I will have a dialogue with you. And this is how you test such interfaces. And it's no longer about the typical touch and point thing. And so also the difficult thing is the path, the conversational path in a visual user interface is kind of, it's always visible, and if you do a good job, it guides you. But in a voice environment, you don't see like the guidance at all.
You have no progress bars.
Yes, progress bars. You don't have wizards and hints and whatever. So it's just really the best way to do it is just like this, having conversations and kind of act it through.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We could. If we could, I would give you 5.
Like high elbow.
Okay, let's do that. Where's the disinfectant, by the way? I didn't bring it this time. So, any more questions? In the meantime, we can go back to the growth story of your business. You mentioned that you grew from 3 to currently 26 people. I have checked that. I went to the offices. There's other people than you, so that seems to be true.
So the fake.
Right. And you also told me that you made 250 Swiss francs in revenues in the first year, and you grew this to a little more than 3 million in the last year. That's 4 years.
Yeah.
That's
Americans would say, well, above 3 million. It was 3,006,000. So.
Okay, good. But
if you were American, well, way above 3 million.
Absolutely, almost 4. Almost 4. And you have a valuation of your company of more than 10,000. And of course, my favorite joke when I meet Reto is
10,000. That's a bit
10
low.
million. I'm sorry, 10 million Swiss francs. I'm really sorry about that. My favorite joke when I meet Reto is, how much is in your pocket? Can you answer that for us?
How much in my pocket? Well, not much, because it's all fictitious money. You
Exactly.
know?
Paper money, as you call it.
I do have some savings though. I'm not poor, but
Really cool.
Company-wise, it's just like it looks great on the paper, but it's just.
It's
paper.
not realized yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be realized, and we all hope for that to become
one
the
day,
case.
maybe.
Yeah. When you look back at the Reto who created that company, and I mean, before you started in 2015, there was also an experimental time around the whole thing, a project, if you want to call it that, a side project even. When you look back at that guy and you compare this Reto to yourself today, what is different? What's the biggest difference?
That's a very good question. I think that time before 2015, when it was experimental, by accident we used the lean startup principle. We built MVPs, we validated. It was like we really faked the whole experience and made sure someone pays us before we continue building it. So I'm really proud of that time, how I made sure I didn't end up like with Remember the Name, like night after night coding something nobody liked at the end, to really build quick and dirty prototypes and make sure it's meaningful and customers end up paying for it. And so that phase was super important. It was all very tiny, but that first order I will never forget, that first $80 which came in paid with a credit card. I mean, that's like one of the best moments in a founder's story, to experience that. And now today, it's all about growing, optimizing. I mean, it's a complete different era. Now I have much more responsibility to have I have this much bigger yacht ship I have to steer through an ocean, which right now is bumpy, and then there will be the happy times again. And back then you were like more or less like 2-3 people figuring out something. You could change things overnight, versus today you have a management team, you have a board, you have to talk things out, you have a strategy, you plan. And both are great things to do, but sometimes I miss those initial times, to be honest. Yeah.
Bedroom times? Did it happen in a bedroom?
It happened in a coffee shop, while I was also doing some freelancing to earn some side money. I was part in Bali. I also experimented with a digital nomad lifestyle. I even shoot my first promo video in Bali, in Ubud. So it was just like a great time. But now it's really serious business, with serious customers, and that's a complete different game.
Something has come of it. And you just mentioned that you sold before you actually built. So that lean startup, one of the most important parts of the lean startup principles is that you sell before you actually build. And even when I tell your story to other people, that's basically what I tell them the most. And I think that was your very special moment, especially after everything you had tried until then. So knowing you from the app before, I would also say that your approach changed a lot. where before you had to talk to people all the time and see how they react to it. And after you had sold your first job, I don't even remember what it was exactly, you were a different kind of Reto because you didn't have to talk to everybody. You kind of knew who to talk to. It wasn't B2C anymore, where you could talk to everybody, but you were much more focused and you had your clientele and you were talking to these guys, and to everybody else, you were just a guy trying something. Quite quiet, if I want to call it that.
Yeah. But I made a promise to myself, because 99% of the people would give up after like remember the name failed, and they would just go back because it was already like 2 years intense work. And so it's like, okay, I believe in this new idea, and I don't continue until I have a first order without building or writing a line of code. I can convince at least one co-founder. And so those were the two promises I made to myself. As long as I don't fulfill these two, I'll not continue like I did. And I think this is when someone asks me like, what is important? What is your number one advice? It's really like, don't build too much before you know it makes sense. Somebody wants it, and then you can always build things later. Sell it first, and only then you learn that you solve a problem. You have a purpose.
I mean, first of all, to all of you out there, I think it's important for us to understand that we're already in the deep dive. Because when we talk about business growth, there's mainly 3 areas that I see. And I would call them product, people, and marketing. And marketing kind of contains communication, marketing, and sales, right? So we're in the middle of the product part, or actually 2 parts.
Product
even.
market fit.
Product market fit, yeah. So you were selling before you actually built, and then you could sell, and then you built that. So one is the whole marketing part, where you sold, and then you switch to building it, which is the product part. So we're in the middle of it. And I have another question for right now. You mentioned that you would encourage people to sell first and only then start to build. Is that true also for a company that has 10,000 employees?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, not in a pirate way we did it, you know? I mean, we basically faked the facade. We sold a promise. Behind the scene, it was all done manually. It's like some concierge prototype almost, you know?
Yeah.
This type of things. So
I would like to explain that quickly. Concierge service, what it means is, imagine testing time today with a pool of almost 500 test users, and if you give them a job and you ask for 5 test users that you could use in your research, they would have to be able to find these 5 out of a pool of almost 500 people. That's what they do today. But
500,000. 500.
What did I say? 500 again?
500 will be.
You see, I'm still
Today's
in the
not your numbers
phase.
day.
Yeah, I need to raise my numbers game. Definitely. Thank you very much for correcting me. So back at the time, there was no pool. There were no test users, basically. So you had to kind of fake it and see whether people really wanted to buy what you had on a landing page.
And the important thing is, we just made a promise. Okay, we may have lied about the number because we said 20,000 people, but as long as you can deliver, you don't lie, you're not fake. And that's the beauty about MVPs. You just make sure you deliver what someone ordered, you know, and then you see like, okay, these are the important things you learn as you go. And if you come back to a company with 10,000 people, I mean, Google does this all the time. They may not have like sort of facades and fake prototypes, but they always build an absolute minimal viable product which runs in itself. They go out and they measure and learn, you know. And so I don't think it has anything to do with companies. It's even more important once you are so big that you just make sure you can innovate very quickly. big enterprises, which are also good customer of ours, they have like innovation labs now to kind of isolate or kind of protect this innovation spirit, you know, and that may work or not, but I think it's even better if you can embed this without innovation lab into your culture, and that's the hard thing, you know.
Yeah. We could also ridicule innovation labs right now. You can't because they're your clients, but I can. Because actually, come on guys, these innovation labs, having 20 people who do innovation.
And Post-its.
What?
And Post-its.
And Post-its, hipsters with beards, calling themselves innovation something. Of course, that's a fun job, but what has come out of it? And I think, especially in a time like this one, where you're not a unicorn anymore, but more a camel, you need to ask yourselves, is this the right way? Are we really radical about how we employ the methods that you just talked about? I just say that because I hope that you will curse me on social media so that I get a chance to get to know you, actually. So thank you if you do that. Anyway, innovation, it sounds very good. In most cases of these bigger innovation labs, it's not so easy. I mean, it's never easy, but there are not so many results that you and I can discuss that prove that this innovation lab philosophy really works for large companies. Wouldn't you say so?
I see the problem because there are customers and we try also even to help them to get past that, and I think what the problem is, you kind of make almost like two categories, like the old boring working on the existing stuff, and you have the new fancy pantsy ones who get like their playground and post-its and whatever they want. And so as soon as they have cooked up something great, then the old guard says, no, we don't want to change and so, and then it fails often again, even if they did a great job. And again, I think the idea of an innovation lab is great, and I support this, but they have to work much more on bringing this together, that those who run the current business are actually thankful that innovations are coming, that they even contribute. Like one of our customers bought a private pool from us to
a swimming pool?
Yeah, almost. No, it's like an employee pool where they can pull in employers into like innovation workshops.
Help us understand that. Huh? I'm lost here. What does that mean? So there's a company and they buy a pool from you. What does that mean?
No, they buy our, we have a new product, it's called Private Pool. Usually you come to us and say, I need 10 people for a usability test. This is the target group and I want to meet them on Skype or whatever, you know. And then our system looks for the right people and schedules the appointment and pays them and make sure everything goes fine. And now we have a new product. We built this public pool, this 500,000 users, but now oftentimes companies, enterprises have a very niche target group, which for us is hard to reach or not economical to build up because only one customer needs it.
What could that be? Like, what could that niche be?
Do you have an example? Employees, or like one customer bought it for hearing impaired people. This is not a group. There are not that many.
Yeah.
Hearing
even in a pool of
device.
500,000, there are not that many. I mean.
Yes, and it's not even worth it. So they purchased a license to get a hearing impaired people pool, and so this is their branded version of it. And so coming back to the case, that company said, well, we want to have a pool of our employees which can participate in innovation workshops. Yeah. So to nurture the innovation culture in the company. And I find this a really good thing.
Okay, cool. So we were talking about the product which you are developing based on sales. Mm-hmm. We were talking a little bit about sales, and I think we should dive into that as well. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, of course, is the people. And you already mentioned the war for talents. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that play out for you? In a city like Zurich, and you're not only, like, not all of you are working in Zurich. Maybe you could establish that first. Where do they work?
So the main part works in Zurich, but...
How many? 15?
19, 20.
Mm-hmm. Of 26, just as a reminder.
So we have like, I think so, I would have to count, but it's around that. And And the rest is distributed in Germany, UK, and one is in Amsterdam. So that came all together when we raised our Series A. That was all about, okay, this works in Switzerland. We proved
Which round was that?
With the seed round, we proved we can go from Switzerland
How
to
many
Germany.
rounds did you have so far?
Now we have done 3.
3.
We
So
just closed the
seed
bridge round.
A, B. Oh, bridge.
No, A+. Yeah.
A plus.
That's
Okay,
a smaller
okay.
round.
Can you tell us how much money came in all these rounds? I remember the first one, 800,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, so altogether we raised about 4.5 to 5 million.
4.5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a lot of money, huh?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Where did all that money go?
Into people. And
Yeah,
we're talking about
yeah,
people.
yeah,
So
if you look at the accounting part, I mean, more than half of the money is spent on talent. So it's
I hope so.
It's like the most expensive thing
Yeah.
you have, and so this is also the one thing you should take care the most.
How do you do that? Do you massage your people when they come in the morning?
No, I don't do that, especially now during Corona times. It's not a good thing to have any, to get near in any case. The way we do it, this is not like a one time effort. This is like building again a team culture. I think the biggest move we did when we all went to Umbria last year, team trip. We rent a villa, and only a tiny amount of our funding went into that villa, by the way. So, but we were working on core values, and those core values help us now even to kind of stick together during a crisis like this.
Did these core values change something? Because there was a before and an after, right? Mm-hmm. Before you went to Umbria, you already worked with people. Many of them were already on the team. So if something changed, what changed, for example?
I mean, I use them a lot. I pick my favorite core values, always transparency and boldness. Those are... Boldness.
Boldness, how?
Boldness, just don't worry, try things, fail, learn, get up, you know. Don't just iterate around the status quo.
Did they come up with that, or did you?
Yeah, that's important. You have to work this out in a team. Don't be the CEO who says, oh, I want this, this, and this, so now you need to believe it. It doesn't work. So you do these exercises and you work it out together. And that was one thing. You know, when you're very small, you think, we don't need this, you know. But as soon as you pass 10 people, this is actually also, again, a guiding principle. You know, you can even read them on our website if you go about us, team, and then you see core values. You can read about our core values. We communicate this even to the outside world to attract talents again, because new talents see, they really think about these things, you know. And I kind of see myself in there, and that's a value which is important to me, so I think you should apply here. You know?
Yeah, I understand that for people who think about working for your company, that might be important. For me, coming from a writer's background, a journalistic background, I'm a bit cynical about it, and I say I'm unable to read this until I see it in people. Would I see it in people if I would spend a day at your office?
I think so, yeah.
How?
It's just like you would see how we decorated the office.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
Looks good.
It's like when you talk to people, they would be open about it, transparent, and they would even share like what experiments are going on at the moment. We have a very open culture. We don't have a lot of secrets. Actually, I'm the one who has to be the most careful not to talk about too many facts, because this is my nature. I always think like secrets is something unnecessary. Always share with the world, and you would experience that definitely.
So, what is a secret that you can't share with the team? Cannot, but you can share it with us.
Well, they're all watching, maybe. You know?
Okay. So
I just shared it on Slack before we went live. So
now you could share.
No, there's There's really no secret. I even share internally the shareholders' quarterly report with the entire team. I mean, I just forward the email to everyone. It's the original email.
There must be things in there that somebody could take to a competitor,
No,
and it would hurt you.
it's just a bunch of numbers and shows how you progress.
So it's not important
It's
anyway. Why do
No,
you
it is
even mention
important
it?
to
Why do
show-
you bring it up
to
if
show
it's not
progress to
important?
shareholders. It's just like, I think it's not really about the number, it's about the openness to share. I trust you with something only shareholders usually get. I'm giving it to whatever you read out of it. Come to me if you want to learn more. What we don't share, we talk about it, is salaries. That's something they just see like employee expense or salary expense and add-on costs, and it's one bucket. And I'm also not like, what is it called? This model of running a company, holacracy. Yeah.
Holacracy.
I read about it, but I think I wouldn't go that far. But I also don't know enough about it.
Are you interested? Like, do you think that's important for your future growth at all? Because if it's not important for your future growth, let's skip it.
No, it's a very good topic. I think empowering people is very important, and holacracy is
What does it mean for you? Because you see it in my eyes, like PR talk, PR speak.
No.
Empowering people.
It's like giving away responsibility. It's not always like the CEO or my co-founder Oli, the CTO, makes the decisions. And it's a process. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. It's an everyday exercise, and always ask people, tell me, give me feedback, and to give away control. I always tell Oli, our job is to kind of make us obsolete. This company should run without us. Then we have done a great job. So it's like an active way of removing yourself, and then you do a good job. And I think that's a good guiding thing for me. And holacracy just takes everything a step further. It's like self-organized, and especially during times like this, I believe it's important to kind of guide a team when there are like people are scared what's going on. There's so many fears going around, and I don't know how. I would love to talk to someone who has now a holacracy company, how they kind of guide themselves through a crisis like this versus us kind of guide everyone through it. We have to make decisions and so on.
What's your style of doing it? Talking about the crisis, what exactly did you do? What's your style of leadership?
Stay calm, communicate regularly.
What do you tell them? You need to work harder?
No, they already work hard. I just, whatever measures we have to take, I explain them where this comes from. We had to switch from a growth mindset into a survival mindset, and even that was for me. I remember in the board meeting, I was all about we should go pedal for the medal. Especially now we have to go through this, and they said no, we don't know when this crisis ends, so we cannot just go all in and everyone is woo woo woo. So we now have to prepare everything for the camel case, and fill the things with water, and now we go into the desert and see. We don't know when this desert ends.
Yeah.
And that was for me kind of hard to accept. And then we executed it, and then you just communicate and authentically. I also shared that I'm not necessarily very happy about this, but we have to do this for this reason, because I don't want to lay off people. I want to get through this all together, and everyone has to take a little hit. But let's just try to get through this as quickly as possible, but we don't know when it ends, So,
yeah.
And again, be yourself, discuss and share your thoughts transparently, answer questions, take away fears, and just go one step at a time, Thank
you very much. And let me look at the chat for a second. Right away, yes. Sandro. Most probably your name is Sandro, and the rest of it is a gamer's name. And I love that Reto is much more humble than what other people that achieved way less are. Congratulations. That's my friend Digilo again.
It's very nice.
I hope you have connected with me on LinkedIn. Gustavo, Hannes Gossett can tell you more about holacracy. You think we should do a show? Good, that's a good one as well. Any other questions? Any other inputs? Also call out our bullshit if we speak, if we do PR speak here, if you think that this show is getting boring the longer it goes on, let us know. Be tough with us. We want to be interesting here. Reto, in the meantime, sales. As I said before, we need to talk about sales.
Okay.
Because there was a moment, I remember that, well, when you employed your first salesperson, or even two at a time?
Oh yeah.
Was it two at a time?
Oh man, you're like an elephant, you know?
I am. I am, yeah.
You don't get it right with numbers, but those moments you
so
remember.
there were 200 salespeople? No, there were only two. This time I'm pretty sure there were two, not 2,000. You employed two salespeople, and of course, the CEO mindset was, I can afford this. My problems will be solved. Sale is now somebody else's thing. It just never goes like this, did it?
No.
Tell us all about it.
You know,
don't mention the names though.
No, I don't. You know, don't worry. All what matters is ABC. Always be closing. So okay, that's now my joke. I wanted to place. Ha ha ha. So yeah, sales. That's a difficult thing. I have a love-hate with this topic. But as a founder, that's your job to figure it out. And I handed over that responsibility on several occasions. It wasn't the first time when we hired the first two people. It was later when we hired the first sales leader. And it's just like, it's the most difficult thing in the B2B world to figure out a good sales process and hire the talents to execute on your sales process and get better and better at it. And then you plug in marketing efforts to kind of accelerate the sales processes. I met along the way great people. You also know him, Patrick Utz, who coached me on sales as such. And one recommendation I can give here again is, you as a founder, you need to do sales. And not just like one deal, you have to do this for a few years to figure it out. You have to be the one with the flag running ahead and be a good role model. And yeah.
I remember in the beginning when you had these two, I especially remember that you were talking about one of them and that you waited for him to pick up the phone for the first time. Like, for days there was nothing, and you said, when are you going to be ready to make your first phone call? I think this story is so great. And after 2 or 3 weeks maybe, while he was still telling you that he had to prepare the whole list, the database, clean out the database and do stuff like that, at some point you said, pick up that phone, make that call. Was it like that, or am I inventing this?
No, I never said you have to now to pick up the phone, but it was a problem for me, yeah. For some reason, we all believe sales have to pick up a phone. In a way, it's true, but it symbolizes something. To go out there, to talk to customers. Don't wait in your office, in your seat, and send emails and clean up whatever you have. You know, it's a symbol for, hey, you need to go out and hunt for the customers, and that person.
Is it hunting?
It is hunting.
Because, you know, I talk with CEOs who say it's an invitation. It's an open invitation. You kind of open the door for people who want to come in anyway, based on what the building looks like. Do you think it is hunting? You have to go after people?
It's both. I mean, we invested heavily into a content marketing strategy to invite people to us. I mean, we share, till today, we have awesome content about user experience. And this is like not not like cheap content. We really invest in writing good stuff about topics which matter to our customers. So there are like ebooks and all that stuff, so people want to download them or get access to it. Then we get leads, and then we learn about the needs, we nurture them. So that's one way of getting leads invited and warmed up, and then you go after them and say, hey, can we get into business? Because we learn.
So that's the hunting part.
Yeah, but then there's also like, you don't have a lead. You just know this company needs you in a way. They would have a need for your service, and then you go, this is outbound sales. You go and find the right person to talk to. You call them up, you connect with them, or you go to an event to meet them. That's hunting. And at the beginning, you don't have content marketing. All you have is maybe LinkedIn, and you have like an idea of which company have a need for you, and then you go after that. And that takes like this energy to go after them, you know. I mean, writing a cold call script. I did all that in the coaching with Patrick, and call him, and it's just like every time, like even myself, but I had to push myself through this. So if I don't do it, why would anyone else do it, you know? And then you get people doing it, and if you have people who don't want to do it, then they probably shouldn't be in sales, you know, because this is your key job, to reach out to people, to find out, do you need us? Can we get into business?
Yeah.
And yeah.
So it is an invitation while you hunt. You can give out invitations to people while you're hunting, in a way.
Yes, and also there's no like one way or the other. It all comes together. You know, sales today is not like what you remember from the very old days. But at the end of the day, you need to be active and reach out and get to talk. That's that. My last question before we go to the chat is, how long did these two first salespeople last in your company? Actually, one is back.
Oh, really?
Again, yeah.
Okay, so we're not.
But that was the good one, you know.
Oh, so we only discussed the other one back at the time.
No, I don't even want to blame. It's just like the very first one we hired just ahead of time. We had no need for him. We needed a doer, and he was more thinking about sales strategy and these kind of things. But these are still great people, just joined at the wrong time, and we had to learn that first. And then me, I'm a very driven by getting things done. I'm a doer, you know. And and the only requirement you have for a salesperson is doing, you know. And if you see you hired someone who doesn't want to do in your sense, calling, getting out there, then you run quickly out of patience. I understand. Yeah. And you already had quite a business. I mean, even in the first year, 250,000 Swiss francs, that's something. You know, that's not the startup that waits 3 years until there is revenue. Let's go to the chat. Who do we have here? Do you think, can you help us, Gustavo? Because the first one that I see... There's the Sandro side, huh? the movie.
For closers? Gustavo, can you help me? Because I don't think I see everything. Thank you for helping here. Sandro, do you think that after this COVID thing, digitalization and the business will boom? Reto?
Well, it already did.
It booms now?
Well, it was put on warp speed in a way. Warp, you know, like it's just like. I mean, I don't know. You have been like digital transformation events and digitalization events and whatever. You know, things were progressing, but now they were put on hyperspeed.
Yeah, the development itself, yes. But is there investment behind it? Is there employment behind it? I mean, will the business boom? Right? And the business will boom. Yeah. That's the other part. Will business boom?
I think so. It will shift. It will be different.
But you're on survival mode instead of growth mode. So you don't believe in the boom.
I heavily believe in the boom, and we will come out stronger than before. But also for us, like what hit us is one of our USPs was delivering test users on site to your physical lab, office or whatever. And the other half was remote studies.
Yeah.
And that part stop really. Like if you look at our
The on-location element
it's like
was gone
I mean,
completely.
like wow, holy shit! What are we gonna do now? And then we helped our customers, those who always did in-house, to go on to remote research, and we did webinars, blog posts, and we really had a big part we could move, and others just wait and sit it out and say, look, for example, I have a physical product, a hearing device, you cannot do remote, you have to be there are things you cannot substitute with a remote study, and it will come back. But again, that made me think like, what is our future gonna look like, you know? Is our product still relevant afterwards, meaning like that part in-house? And so things will change, and there will be big winners, and there will people who will have to completely pivot away from what they did before, and yeah, reinvent themselves.
So in the philosophy of the question that Sandro asked, is that boom for everybody? I would say no.
No, definitely not.
So
unfortunately, there will be companies which will not get out of this anymore.
is it unfortunate?
I think in a way it is, because this is not something. If you're a poor leader, you did things wrong as a company, you know, you careless or whatever, just bad execution, then I believe the Darwinism should eliminate you, because you just don't do a good job. But this thing is like the whole travel industry, which is actually also a big customer segment of ours. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. They were just hit by this, and the government shut down everywhere. So they did nothing wrong. So yeah. I think it's unfortunate for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And I really hope for all these good companies that they can do a proper restart and get out of this. Yeah.
Good. So, Sandro, let us know if that was good enough for you. I have learned that there's going to be a boom, but probably not for all of us or all of the companies that we know today. I can see this as a huge incentive for companies to get this on the rails. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what this refers to in this sentence. Maybe you could clarify that for us now? Or do you know?
It relates to the first part.
Oh.
Digitalization and the huge incentive for companies to get on this digitalization rail,
Okay.
which is true. Yeah. So this is like, especially like, I mean, what happened with grocery stores, right? The big winners were like home delivery, like Farmy, Le Shop, and all these things. So I think these big grocery stores will invest into the digitalization, order online, deliver.
I mean, if all of them have to do it, the question remains, is that something that will save everybody? Mm-hmm. If you're a follower and not one of the leaders, not one of the early adopters, then maybe you don't have the competitive advantage when you do it, right? Yeah. So if you have to do it because everybody has to do it, that doesn't mean that you're ahead of the crowd anymore.
And he confirmed, Sandro.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Olsen, do you think companies always have to grow? Is it not okay to reach a point where you stagnate, where your revenue stagnates, and maybe also the company size?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a big question. I mean, welcome to capitalism. Yes, it's actually even for me sometimes stressful, because I joined this game getting investors' money, and once you start this, there's no way you can stagnate. This is what you join. It's all about endless growth. So now, if you don't get investors and do it for yourself, feel free to hover at the size where you're comfortable, and it's not about infinite growth anymore. And so if I would start over again, I would ask myself that question again: do I want to get into this investors game again? Or will I want to grow it organically, that I can also say, this is the perfect size for me? And yeah, so that's a choice you have to make early on in your journey.
Do your investors have a majority?
No. Actually, after this last round, the founders together still have 1 share more.
Okay.
That's,
But still, I mean, there is pressure and these people are in it for the money. Usually, a capital investor is in it for the money.
But you know, that's also a fear I want to take away. As founders, we always think about majority shares. But if you look through a shareholders agreement and board regulations and all that stuff, then you suddenly realize whether you have now 51% or 49%. For the most part of your decision, that doesn't matter because the important decisions need 2/3
majorities.
In the board.
In Switzerland, at least.
You have important board matters, you have important shareholder matters. These things are all regulated, and that's why you can dilute the founders way below 50%. It doesn't matter because the important things are regulated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Olsen, I would like to say something to you as well. I think the overall economy doesn't necessarily need to grow all the time. I'm kind of happy with Corona, a little bit, if I may say that here in public, because it asks us exactly that question. How much do you want to grow? Where is the limit? Does it have to be this way? Does it have to go on and on and on? And I'm with you there, assuming that I understand where you're at. But the other thing is, a company, especially in the beginning, a startup, yes, they have to grow. And what they do is they grow because they replace somebody else. And they have to replace somebody else because we want to have a healthy and a solid environment, a solid economy. And I think it's always better if the progressive forces are growing and kind of get the other ones out of the way. This is not happening all the time, in my view, but this is what I'm in for. This is why I, for instance, do this show. Another question from Guillermo Catalano. I'm sorry. Do you see the future for content startups? What kind of content? Are they producing contents, Guillermo? Or what kind of content startups are you referring to? Or do you understand?
I can take a shot of both interpretations. So I believe in startups which use content marketing for their sales funnel or for their even branding, positioning, how they attract leads and customers. And since I believe in that, the conclusion is I also believe that there needs to be company doing services around content, so content startups also. I do believe in this whole space a lot. I was the old days a bit more critical because it takes a long time until you see the effect. But once it kicks in, it's properly indexed by Google. And also you can share and reshare and
Reto, I'm sorry, I have to cut you short because You know what? We have 1.5 minutes, and I would like to address the other questions quickly. Coffee for closers only. Do you see a future? Which is the best way to do a cold sale in a tech world where everybody sells smoke? Thank you, Sandro. Perfect, that's what I meant. As now lots of companies are running to catch up. Gustavo, how much truth is the TV show Silicon
I love
Valley?
That show. I saw the entire 6 seasons. Everyone has to watch that one, and I think a lot of it is true, but it's of course overacted and overplayed.
Yeah. Guillermo, also, like all of you who are out there, please connect with me. Tell me that you were on the show. I will also gladly tag you if you want that, or tell me if you don't want that. If I know who you are, I can tag you in my posts, and that would enhance the fun, I would say. I produce travel content, and I'm panicking. Guillermo, we should talk about that outside of the show. Cedric, great to have you here. I was waiting for this moment. Thank you for making it happen today. Being happy with Corona is a bit inconsiderate, considering people died and people lost their loved ones. I would agree that on a macro level there are also many good aspects to this crisis, but the health implications are severe and many companies and people suffer. Yeah, I have my own opinion on that. It has nothing to do with business growth, but yeah, I'm on the side of those people who you don't want to listen to because you really don't like them so much. Maybe not on the extreme level of things, but yeah, we could discuss this outside of the show as well. There is no time anymore. Thank you very much for having been here. Reto, another, give me 5 virtually.
Thank
you very much
for having me on
and
the
see
show.
you next week. Bye-bye.